Good evening and welcome to Coach World TV. My name is Terry Yoffe, and tonight as my guest I have the very dynamic, very lovely Deborah Grayson Riegel.
Thank you for having me and for pronouncing all of those names correctly. That's a miracle. Well
I've been
done.
practicing.
I know you have. It shows. It shows.
So, Deborah is a presentation and communications skilled expert, as well as she has many, many niches. But tonight we've got only a few that we're going to talk about, and two are myjewishcoach.com, which is her, I believe, her website. Engineers are people too. And anything else she's going to throw into the mix.
That's right. Looking forward to it.
Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you.
So, tell us about yourself. Where did you weren't born a communications coach expert?
Well,
or
some
were
might
you?
think that. I have to say that some are made and some are born, and chances are I'm a combination of both.
Okay.
A piece of famous family lore that I have from growing up was that right before my 5th birthday, my mother asked me what I wanted for a birthday present, and I did not have to think about it for more than 2 seconds. I said, I want a microphone. And apparently my older brother, who shared a bedroom with me at the time, got down on bended knee and said, please, please do not give her a microphone. That would be like handing a gun to Charles Manson. She doesn't need it. So I think part of this is inborn, and I actually grew up in New York City, in Manhattan, and my extracurricular activity was doing speech and debate. And my senior year of high school, I won the national championship in public speaking, an event called Original Oratory. And starting at age 17, I started getting hired by colleges and corporations to do presentation skills training.
Are you kidding?
I am not
wow.
kidding. So that was a great lead-in question, Terry.
Okay, so that's a surprise.
Yeah.
Because when you ask most people, when did the light bulb go off about being a coach or getting into presentations or communications, they have a laundry list of careers.
Yeah. Yep.
Like me, I was in advertising sales, I was in fashion, I had my own sales rep business, and then came the coaching.
Right.
So most people have a couple of things prior.
Yes. So I was I was born with something that became a marketable skill earlier than most people would know, and I say that I've actually never had to learn a second marketable skill because this one has worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us, since we don't have that aha moment.
Yeah. Although it is, it is a little bit of an aha because, some people were lucky enough to meet their soulmate in high school. I met my soulmate career when I was in high school. But it reminds me very much of an article that I read in the New York Times, I think about 6 or 8 months ago, and it talked about the idea that we are maybe doing people a disservice by leading people to believe that there is a dream job for them and that they should follow their one passion, when in fact, if people want to work, there may be many things that they're good at and many things that they could be interested in, but if we teach people from the beginning that there's only one thing, there's not a lot of opportunity out there.
And I absolutely concur, because you could go down one path and then all of a sudden make a right turn.
Yes.
Instead of saying, okay, I have this one narrow path to go down and this is where I'm destined.
Yeah.
I mean, my career has zigzagged all over the map.
Absolutely.
I was interested in fashion, I got into fashion. I was interested in PR, I got into PR. I then fell into sales, actually, literally. I got hired.
That sounds like a story.
Talk about storytelling. I got hired not because I had any sales experience, but because I knew the fashion industry, and it was to run a territory for Women's Wear Daily way back when. And it proved to be very highly successful because I found out I could sell.
Yes.
So, you never know what platform you jump onto where you have to learn.
And wearing the platform heels, I'm sure, in the fashion industry. Right, exactly. So I had this one skill and figured out how to make a career of it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
So to tell our audience, what exactly is a presentation and communications expert do?
Well, one of the ways that I like to think about it is that everybody, whether it's in their personal lives or their professional lives, has some set of something where they run the risk of opening their mouth and inserting their foot, whether it's in a formal capacity or an informal capacity, and I like to step in before that foot gets into the mouth. So it's anything from helping people with their formal presentation skills, whether it's selling externally to customers, whether it's pitching things internally in meetings, or helping people with one-on-one communication and relationship building. So we've all heard the adage that people don't leave jobs, they leave supervisors. One of the big challenges that I coach people on are supervisors who really have not figured out how to communicate in a way that builds trust and relationships in order to create engagement.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That I don't know if you saw the recent issue of Inc. magazine.
Nope.
The June issue. It's all about the 7 traits of a great leader.
Okay.
And what they talk about, a lot of these EQ skills.
Absolutely.
You know, vulnerability, empathy, and certainly about how do leaders, managers, supervisors behave. And I can tell you that from clients that I've had that had to work for these people, it can be pretty scary.
It can, and that actually is sort of one of the leaping off points for Engineers Are People Too, right? So Engineers Are People Too is a company that my husband launched, my husband Michael launched, and he invited me on board. And the idea behind Engineers Are People Too are sort of wrapped up in the title, but it's about giving communication and management skills to technical professionals, whether they're an engineer with a capital E or a lowercase e, but the idea that people who are technical professionals are technically excellent and quite committed to there being one perspective called right. There is a right way if you're an engineer or you're solving a circuit board issue or you're dealing in medicine or pharmacy, there is a right way, and chances are you have been rewarded in your career for finding a right way. But what do coaches know, Terry? Is there a right way?
No, there is not.
No. There are multiple right ways.
That is true, and why I'm laughing is my husband comes out of the engineering business.
All right, so we can have an offline conversation about what it's like to be married to somebody in the engineering field after this.
But you're right, he's right all the time.
That's right. He's right, and that serves you very well when you get advanced for technically being right, but when you have to deal with humans and that I can be right and you can be right, well, that is too analog for digital thinkers. Yeah, that's too many shades of gray. I won't say 50, but I know that, you know, it's a clean show. But it's lots of shades of gray for people who are used to things being yes or no, on or off. Yeah.
And I'm hoping, you notice the word hoping, that today's business landscape is starting to shift where leaders are looking beyond how they used to think to opening up the lenses to more of the softer skills that were always identified with women.
Yes, absolutely. And I actually think the timing for this is perfect because if you read the news, what you're seeing is that there is a drive to get more women involved in these so-called STEM professions, so science, technology, engineering, and math. And as there is a drive to get more women involved in STEM professions, my hope is that you will naturally see a softer side, and we also need to create a culture and an environment that supports it, values it, and welcomes it, and gets everybody on board with some of these softer communication and interpersonal skills.
So is this a big part of your business, helping people understand communication and how to present it in the bigger picture?
Yep, and see the value in it. So it's one thing to help somebody understand. It's another thing to help somebody who may not see the value in learning this fluff really understand how this is how things get done in the workplace.
Interesting you use the word fluff. Because that might be an interpretation
It certainly
of
is.
how people would see, you know, compassion, empathy, vulnerability, looking out and seeing what's wanted and needed and whatever else falls into those categories.
Yeah, and that's the stereotype that we are working to reverse, is that this stuff may feel like fluff. This is actually very hard work, this soft skill development, and critical
for a lot of people.
To getting things done.
Yeah.
Things get done through relationship building.
Right.
And if you don't have the tools to do it,
Right.
you're not really going to motivate and inspire.
That is true.
Yeah.
So it must be very rewarding for you to be doing what you love to do.
Absolutely.
And helping people transform, because we're in the transformational business.
Absolutely. It is my work and play are very intertwined. I'm sure my family would speak to that from a different perspective. But I have to tell you, I had a huge personal and professional aha about 2 or 3 years ago. I was at an ICF international conference, and
Which one?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask me that. There was a big ballroom and lots of breakout sessions. I'm sure you remember the one.
Right.
And I remember being in the plenary session, and the speaker was talking about that it doesn't feel like, it's not work if it feels like play. And all of a sudden, I had this huge aha around an area of struggle for me, personally and professionally, which is, as a coach, if you're struggling with something, chances are you're limited in how you can help your clients deal with it. So I'm always working on myself. And I realized that one of the areas that I really struggle with is treating myself. So whether it's a massage or a manicure or fresh flowers, I don't do it, and in fact have a pretty tough reaction saying I don't need that. Luckily, I'm married to somebody who says you need it and deserve it, but I didn't believe it. And here was the aha I had, Terry. The aha I had was that these things, these treats, are associated with hard work. If you do hard work, you earn rewards and treats. But there's no part of my work that feels like hard work. So I all of a sudden realized I need a different way of evaluating what hard work is, and a different way of alerting myself that I've deserved something nice, because I'm not, hopefully, will never experience the feeling of really grinding it out, because my work is so lovely and fulfilling and playful to me.
So it sounds like you may have to reframe.
I may have to reframe. Do you know a coach who might be able to help me do that, Terry?
Reframe the hard work part.
Yes.
That's very interesting. I actually had a client that had similar situation.
Yeah, similar mishigas, as my Jewish coach would say. Yes.
And something called collapse distinctions. If you pull them apart, working hard, treating yourself, they don't have anything to do with one another in a lot of ways. How you work is great, and on the other side, you should take care of yourself.
They are both true at once.
Right.
Yes. Collapse distinctions. I like that. Good. Thank you for that.
A lot of people put that together. They have these things mushed together, and when you pull them apart, what does that have to do with that?
Yeah.
And then they look at it and nothing.
Nothing, right. But we've told a huge story about the relationship. The huge story about the relationship.
There you go. So one of the things, if you haven't already realized about Deborah, is she's got a sense of humor.
Oh, please. Oh, you're too kind. Too kind.
And she is very quick-witted and can kind of throw off a quip just like that. So part of her background is comedy.
Yes.
I mean, we just talked about that she doesn't do comedy, but
I don't do comedy. I mean, that's sort of the thing.
But,
so,
one of her niches is myjewishcoach.com.
Yes.
So what is that?
Well, apparently it's pretty funny. So myjewishcoach.com actually came out of the work that I had been doing. So I've had my own coaching and speaking and training practice for 9 years. And when I launched my business 9 years ago, like many people launching their own business, I went into the business saying to the marketplace, yes, I do that. Didn't matter what the question was. I wanted to be able to say, yes, I do that. Of course I do that. And then I realized the more you say yes to everything, the less you become a specialist or a sought-after expert in any one thing. And several years into having my business, I realized that I actually had two very distinct things going on. I had my corporate clients who were coming to me for training and coaching around presentation communication skills. And I had a whole host of nonprofit Jewish organizations, synagogues, camps, federations, JCCs, agencies that were coming to me for similar work around communication and interpersonal skills. But I didn't have any place for them to come visit that felt like I was speaking their language and understood their unique challenges and opportunities. So I created this brand of myjewishcoach.com, and all of a sudden I found that because I put a stake in the ground and said to more than 98% of the worldwide population, you are not my client, that all of a sudden I had a massive presence because I had declared who I am and what I am for. And it has been amazing to see. I've just taken on 4 other coaches and trainers and speakers to come work as a part of my team because the demand is so high. And this September, I'm delighted to announce that I'm launching the Jewish Coaching Academy, which is a 12-hour coaching skills training program aimed at giving coaching skills to the professional and volunteer leaders of nonprofit Jewish organizations.
That's quite incredible.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Wow.
I'm really excited.
To go along with that, it's interesting because one of the things we heard recently was that a lot of individuals who work in whatever industry they work in actually are taking coaching courses, not to become coaches, but to learn the skills so they can go back and work with their companies in how to deal with people.
Yes, that's exactly what
skills.
This is.
So it's interesting that now you're saying that you have created and designed a program for people in the nonprofit Jewish community who want to learn skills and ways of being so that they can take them back to their organizations.
That's exactly right. So while it may be happening in advertising or financial services or law, now it's happening in the Jewish nonprofit world. Yeah.
I mean, do you have to learn certain words like oi and ve?
Well, you clearly know them. And the people, well, that's sort of the thing. The thing is that if oi and ve is foreign to you, this probably isn't your training program, right? So that's the thing about when you create a niche. When you create a niche, you have to be willing to say no to a huge proportion, a huge amount of the population, but the people to whom you are saying yes are so excited to find you that it's worth it. It's worth declaring a niche. So we found it in My Jewish Coach and found it in Engineers Are People Too, because people who are technical professionals or married to technical professionals find the humor in Engineers Are People Too, and people who look at you and go, I don't get it, they're not your client.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so declaring a niche is about putting a stake in the ground and saying, this is my niche and I love all of you. However, you're not my niche.
Yes.
And that's pretty brave and courageous to do.
Yes, and I'm pretty brave and courageous and also chicken, like other people as well. So I have some niches and I also have a specialty. So a niche is about the people you serve, the specific people, and a specialty is the one thing that you know how to do better than anything else. And so in terms of presentation skills, which I've been doing professionally since age 17, so I guess that's 5 years.
Right, exactly. Maybe less.
Maybe less.
Thank you.
So, thank you. So, for presentation skills, that is an area of specialty. I don't need a niche. There isn't any organization, any group of people to whom I cannot deliver that where they wouldn't find value. So, I like to play in the expertise world and also in the niche world as well.
It's amazing, interesting. It is interesting.
Well, you were telling me earlier that you have a particular group of people you like to serve.
Yes, this is interesting. My somewhat niche is high-achieving business professionals, and that's pretty wide. However, what I find is if they're not necessarily high-paying or CEO, but high-achieving, people that really want to achieve whatever they go for.
Yep.
Energy, motivated to really you know, be focused and strategic about where they want to go.
So
And
you're almost evaluating a self-selecting group of people based on their energy and commitment level.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is exactly right.
Yeah.
And when I have taken on people that don't have that, it's interesting because it's not as rewarding.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of people, and I'm sure you find it, that will call and say, I want to do coaching, I want to do it, and then they get into it, they're not really willing.
It's hard
or even
work.
in the conversation,
Yeah.
in the dialogue, you know, they take a step back, I don't know, you know, they have a million stories, and they don't do it. And
Yeah.
it's not about the stories, it's they don't want to commit to, my hunch, the process of what it really takes.
And it is
to do
work. It is work.
It's a lot of work for them.
Yes, it is.
A lot of work.
It is. And look, we all, and anyone who is a coach at some point in their careers will have taken on a client because the money was good, or there was that initial spark of chemistry, and there was a little
Exactly.
voice that we ignored saying, I don't know that it doesn't
Oh,
quite
yeah,
match.
right.
And inevitably it turns out the same way, which was we needed to trust that inner voice that said this
Exactly.
was not the right fit.
Yeah, I've had one or two of them
I've had plenty more. So,
where it wasn't a fit.
yeah.
And that's, you know, that's the way it is. So I think the more we're in, I've been coaching for 10 years.
Okay.
So the more I'm in the business, believe it or not, the more I get to become aware and to see what's right for me.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah,
so.
and look, we learn about our own decision-making processes by decisions that we blew, right, or didn't go the right way. We say, okay, so what was the trigger for me there? What made me think I want to try this, and what can I learn and apply for the next time?
You know, we're in the business of helping people.
Yes.
And so that's what we want to do. We want to help people.
Yes.
And sometimes we're too overambitious in the helping people.
Yes.
And we don't, you know, we're so eager so that we don't stop to think, okay, I know I'm in the business of transformation and change. However, is this right for this person?
Yes.
You know, we kind of try to jump in with 2 feet because we see another person that can be transformed and changed.
Right. And the reason that you gave for why sometimes people withdraw or just fizzle out is because if they don't want to be helped, right, they're not going to meet us
Right.
where we need to be met.
No. And, you know, then I think comes into consideration is, can I put the time in? Can I put the energy in? Am I willing to really open the kimono, as
Yes,
you say,
yes.
to really show my true self?
Yeah.
And it applies to what you do as well, you know, in working with communications, presentation. There's a lot more that goes into that,
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
And a willingness, I mean, a core
Right.
factor in presentation communication skills is your willingness to be vulnerable and authentic rather than
Right.
just trying to lead with your credibility.
Right.
And that's
Right,
a real,
yeah.
really common flaw that I notice, whether it's a formal presentation or even an informal communication, is we want to show how smart we are and how experienced we are
Yeah.
rather than showing how human I am.
Yeah,
And that's the place where people really, really connect with you.
Right. All about, that's the key word, vulnerability. And a lot of people don't want to be vulnerable.
Right.
And talk about ICF conferences last year in London. Brené Brown was the
She's
speaker
amazing.
and really learned a lot about vulnerability and being courageous and what it takes to be courageous, to have to ask the hard questions or have the hard conversations.
Yep.
And that's what we as coaches, in whichever area of coaching we're doing, is what we're asking of our clients.
Absolutely. I mean, a core coaching question that I'm sure you've asked, and I've certainly asked, is asking a client, how do you want to show up right now, right?
Yeah,
What part
right.
of you really wants to show up? And you have to be pretty vulnerable and be willing to be vulnerable to even look at yourself and say, how am I showing up compared to how I want to be showing up
Right,
here?
Exactly. And I think a lot of people don't really see how they're showing up in life, in their presentation of themselves, in their communication skills. They have no clue.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
And as
of
long as
how
people
they're-
are blind to that, I have work. That works for me.
I guess that's true. Me too.
Yeah, right. Good. Good, good.
You know, keep the blindfolds on.
That's right. That's right. Zip up that kimono and cover it with duct tape. We need clients.
Gosh. So, what else do you want? We still have certainly about 4 or 5 minutes. What would you like to call forth on the table?
What would I like to call
here,
forth? Well, I have.
Deborah?
Can I put you under the interview lamp?
I'm already under a lamp.
Okay, good. Okay, so when people ask you how you describe coaching, so if somebody were going to say to you,
gosh.
and I know that you are in a particularly unique position as the president of the New York City ICF chapter, real leadership position, how do you talk about coaching, what it is and what it does?
Oh, well, that's a long conversation.
Okay.
However, in a few words, coaching for me is all about change. It's really about helping someone look at, as we talked about, look at the obstacles that really, and that would include the stories they tell themselves. For instance, if somebody wants to move up the ladder and they don't feel ready or they don't think they can do it, what they might say is, oh, I don't want that job. It's not right for me, which is really hiding what their own fears are.
Is that vulnerability
Yeah,
piece again?
right.
Yeah.
So it's about really having my clients and people I work with get in touch with what stops them from really getting to where they want to go. What's their vision for themselves, and how does it differ from where they're standing? And, you know, Rick Tamlin said something that, you know, it's all about having a meaningful and fulfilling life. And
Doesn't get
you know,
more bottom line than that.
right, and are people really having that?
Yeah.
And what's the impact that they're making in their world? And is it a positive impact? And if you've got the fulfilling and meaningful life and you're making it a positive impact, what else could you ask for? And if people want to reach that level, then that would be great. And we are coming almost to the end. I did not
Okay.
realize, so I cut myself off.
Good
but
job.
I don't want to end without letting you give everyone your website.
Okay.
Please.
All right. So, 3 websites to check out. My
Probably
Jewish.
have one.
Yes.
Quick.
Okay. MyJewishCoach.com. Engineers are people too, and ElevatedTraining.com.
And thank you very
And thank
much
you.
for being here tonight. It's been a great, great time. We have another 2-3 seconds, but I really didn't want to end without telling you how delightful and enjoyable this was. And I wish I could have gone on and on.
That's
but
okay.
I just realized
We'll
we
have to
didn't
record a
much
part
time.
2.
Oh, we'll have to do a part
got
2. So, again, thank you for
Thank
being here.
you.
And we're looking forward to seeing you Wednesday night
I am as well.
at ICF NYC chapter.
Great
And if you
storytelling
want
workshop.
this, storytelling workshop. And thank you all for being with us tonight. Good night.
Good night.